Let's take a look through the Sisters and the Genestealer cult releases this weekend, and talk about how popular the battle forces are looking, and whether real hobbyists out there are looking to pick them up. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking Sisters and Genestealer cult once more. Quite a big week in Warhammer 40k this one. 2 new codexes, 2 new combat patrols and 2 new battle forces, plus new Pariah Nexus missions as well. All of these are going up for pre-order on Games Workshop's web store and around the world on the 8th of June, so should be on full sale by Saturday the 22nd of June in stores. As mentioned, there's the codexes for Genestealer Cults and Sisters of Battle, Battle Force box sets for both of them, the Army of Faith and Biosanctic Brood Surge, the new and updated combat patrols, dice and data cards for each, and then a few more releases including the 40k core deck in the Pariah Nexus, the Minister and Priest with Zealot's Vindictor, and the Big Mech and Custodian Shield Captain for individual releases. For this video I thought it would be interesting to talk about what collectors out there are actually looking to pick up out of these, if anything. So for this one I thought I'd just quickly go through the releases and the prices, and then take a look at some graphs and data as to how people rate the new releases versus other things, and weigh up the Battle Force boxes against each other and other releases that have happened recently. As ever, if you were looking to pre-order anything or just buy any 40k things in general, I do have a fair few affiliate links down in the video description. Element Games in the UK for 15% off, Gap Games in Australia for 21% off, Fenris Workshop in Canada for 10% off, and Wargame Portal in the USA for 15% off. They should all have good numbers of the pre-orders, and if you do buy anything after clicking the links in the video description, a small amount goes to help support Warspets Tactics and keep the videos coming. As I've been saying in a few videos earlier this week, Games Workshop's Battle Force releases have been anything but consistent. All of these should have at least some supply of them, though in general they've tended to get in stock for a little bit, only have a few Battle Force boxes, and then sell out kind of quickly, though it does depend on the actual popularity of the sets being offered. If you absolutely are sure that you're looking to pick up a Biosanctic Brood Surge or Army of Faith, I'd probably try and be kind of early. Pre-orders look like they'll be going live at midnight Central Time in America, midnight Eastern Time for Fenris Workshop in Canada, 10 AM UK time for Element Games, and midday Eastern Time for Gap Games. With these ones, if they do sell out really quickly at the discount retailers, it's probably worth falling back to Games Workshop's own web store, if you are certain that they're worth it to you. In any case though, let's just rattle quickly through the releases and prices, then get onto the data. The Battle Force box sets are $215, so should be roughly £135 or €175, though I'm interested to see exactly how their new pricing winds up translating over. This one basically reflects the price rise version of the cheaper version of the Battle Forces, so they are a bit cheaper than the Veterans of the Long War and the Dread Talons Chaos Space Marine ones. These are the contents of the Biosanctic Brood Surge. It looks like at the current discounts they're around about 38% off, between Pure Strain Genestealers, Aberrants and multiple Goliaths, plus that new Benefactus model. For the Army of Faith, it's all jump packs, a Caroness and an Exorcist. The discount's a little bit less on the theoretical side here, around about 31% off, though both of these will look a little bit better on paper after Games Workshop presumably puts up the prices of all the kits contained within with their 10th of June price rise. Like the Battle Force boxes, it looks like the combat patrols are releasing at the newer higher price, £100, €130 or $168. The Genestealer one has a bunch of fast attack with Jackal Bikers, Acolytes and the Achilles Ridge Runner. The Sisters is a fair amount of infantry on foot, a Caroness, 10 Battle Sisters, 5 Sacrosants and 10 Arco-Flagellants. For the codexes, they should be $60. I have heard conflicting things as to whether or not they're raising the UK price slightly or not. I guess we'll wait and see on Saturday there. I've certainly seen plenty of rumours saying that they won't be going up, though a couple of people have told me in the comments that they might be. It seems that the USA got away without a price rise for these though, at least. Then we've got a few more characters, which are a bit more certain on the pricing. The Priest with the Zealot's Vindictor is at the slightly cheaper character price, but this is one that was in the Blackstone Fortress game originally, so it doesn't look quite as good by comparison there, but I think it's quite a cool miniature. Otherwise, the Orc Big Mech is an expensive character, £31 or $52. He is quite a bit chunkier than most characters, and the Custodian Shield Captain is kind of their standard captain sort of pricing for a central faction leader. Finally, most of the paper things look to be £19, €24 or $35. Things like the chapter approved Pariah Nexus mission deck, the objectives are the same names, and the datasheet cards for the codexes. With that quick roundup aside though, as I've done with a few videos, I thought it would be interesting to see what people actually made of the releases. There's definitely some positive or negative buzz about things, but maybe how tempting things are overall, or how many people are actually looking to buy, if any, as that's more putting your money where your mouth is. As usual with the responses of these polls, the people who are interested in talking about them are the actual collectors of Genestealer cults or Sisters of Battle. And overall between the two it looks like 72% of people collect either one or both, with another 9% or so plan to start one of the armies with this release. Of the breakdown of that, 38% of people collect just Sisters, 26% of people collect just Genestealer Cult, and around about 8 or 9% of people either collect both or are planning to start the other one if they collected one already. First up, I thought it might be interesting to see how Sisters and Genestealer Cult players rated the discount box sets, and this one's a simple rating out of 5. 5 is good, 1 is bad. Maybe not the absolute best graph on my part, as it can't actually go down to 0, I guess. I'd say the more interesting thing are the discounts though, and it looks like in general people are a lot more convinced by the Genestealer Cult offerings versus the Sisters ones. The Biosantic Brood Surge easily places in top. I guess it is the one that does feel like the most overall round out army for a faction. 2 biggish vehicles in those Goliaths, some aberrants, pure strains, neophytes, the benefactors, and another character miniature. It is a fairly good representation of the things on offer in the Codex. Combat Patrol Genestealer Cult is next, and I would say that one really isn't too bad a one. It looks like it's the highest discount out of any Combat Patrol released in 10th edition so far, besides maybe Tyranids if you count that. And then both the Sisters offerings are kind of rated similar. The theoretical discount on them is kind of similar to each other and a bit lower than the Genestealer Cult ones. The Combat Patrol maybe just feels a little bit on the basic side with 25 infantry, and the Army of Faith just has its weird skew towards jump infantry, causing people to rate it lower apparently. Obviously they are still all discount sets though. If you wanted the exact models within and you were going to buy them anyway, they will still be useful. Though it looks like the Genestealer Cult boxes win a bit by public opinion. I think it's interesting to look at how that translates to what people are actually thinking about picking up though. And interestingly enough, that is fairly heavily shifted around. Despite kind of clearly winning the best discount deal option, less people are interested in the Biosantic Brood Surge than the new Combat Patrol for the Genestealer Cults. And I kind of wonder if that might be just due to the existence of the old Combat Patrol and lots of people probably having picked that up by this point. There was a fair overlap with units between that and the Biosantic Brood Surge, particularly for the Aberrants and the Goliath vehicles. If you are a Genestealer Cult player and you collected your army with multiple copies of the previous Combat Patrol set, you might have as many of those as you want. The new Combat Patrol though might be a better expansion for an existing collection. I feel like fewer people have absolutely tons of the Jackal bikes and the Ridge Runners as a result of not coming in the Combat Patrol. Plus extra acolytes are rarely the worst thing in the world, given that the kit is quite so expensive per the 5 models that you get, plus the option to dual build as metamorphs. Otherwise though, it looks like the Biosantic Brood Surge and Army of Faith are kind of split, with an even number of people wanting to pick up both of them. I guess the perceived better deal of the Biosantic Brood Surge is kind of outweighed by there being more Sisters players out there. And between the 2 Sisters box sets, people are more convinced by the Army of Faith apparently. I guess it does have the new shiny jump pack Caroness. I feel like the Sisters jump pack miniatures plus the Exorcist are all kind of cool, though it does feel like a bit more of an expansion box to get loads of them as opposed to the sort of core box that you might start with. Otherwise, for the new miniatures that are coming out in those Battle Force box sets, I wondered which of those might be the biggest draw to them, and it seems like the numbers are actually really very evenly split as to which of these is the best or the coolest, and it seems that the big-brained Benefactor slightly outweighs the Sister Battle Canoness here, 379 votes to 359. I feel like they're both interesting enough models to be honest. The Benefactus is certainly very peculiar and weird, but also kind of fun, and I feel like the whole anti-tank psycho sort of aesthetic is a kind of cool one. The Sisters Canoness is maybe a little bit more predictable, though I think it definitely is a miniature that needed to return to their range, as it was a basic option for Canonesses in the past. I do quite like the amount of war gear options that they've given her between things like the Eviscerator and the Halberd and things. Otherwise though, putting them alongside the other releases, it seems that people are far more consistently interested in the codexes and that Pariah Nexus mission deck, the codexes being a fair bit more than anyone's looking to pick up any of the big model deals, in a similar sort of predictable split for how the factions are collected, and then the Pariah Nexus mission deck seems to be the hot thing to go for. I guess that it governs the way that 40k will be played going forward. It's going to be a fairly necessary purchase for a bunch of people, unless you're playing casually and want to stick with the Leviathan missions. I was also interested just to have a look in at the Big Mech and the Custodes Shield Captain. Seems like the Big Mech maybe kind of predictably outsells the Shield Captain. 65 people saying they're looking to pick up the Fancy Orc Mech, and 45 the Shield Captain. I think people generally did rate the mech as a far cooler miniature, even if he maybe doesn't have quite the most overwhelming rules in the world for the Orcs. Otherwise, take a second look at those combat patrols. I think it's no real surprise that both of them are kind of heavily outcompeted in value by the old ones versus the new ones. I asked you which ones you guys would rate best. The Old Sister Battle one was the more monopose one that was kind of similar to their launch set. The monopose miniatures definitely were a downside, but coming with a Rhino and a Penitent engine in the mix, I think was a nice selling point. It definitely felt that you just got more fun plastic on the board for your money for that. I certainly would agree that I think the old one was a bit cooler than the new one personally. Otherwise, I'm even less surprised by the Genestealer Cult one, even though the new one does seem kind of interesting and popular. I feel like there was very little chance that any 10th edition Combat Patrol was going to be seen as good as the old one. That one was about as perfect as you could get for Genestealer Cults, I think. Good amounts of their powerful battle line units, some exciting aberrant damage dealers, and a Goliath all in there, plus a character. It was just a slightly unusually generous Combat Patrol box set, maybe feeling like it had one more unit in there than most sets normally have. The new one still isn't awful discount-wise, around about 38% off versus the more like 30% off that most of 10th edition has had, but you certainly get fewer models. Finally, to put those in context, I thought it would be interesting to weigh them up against how people would rate the other combat patrols of most of the rest of 10th edition. And it seems that at least by this opinion poll, they're sort of weighted towards the lower side. Seems that Custodians and Chaos Marines head up the list here, then Tau, Necrons and Orcs. Genestealer Cult's just a little bit below that. Adepts Sororitas looking a bit more consistently below that, but not quite as bad as the Dark Angels and AdMech combat patrols, which were rated worst of the bunch. Looks like people aren't particularly excited about them compared with some of the others. I think I would agree with that assessment as well, that the Sisters one is just a bit less exciting overall versus the Genestealer one. In any case, let me know what you think of the Genestealer Cult and Sisters of Battle releases, and whether or not you'd agree or disagree with general opinion as to the box set value. Look forward to hearing all your thoughts down in the comments below, as per always. As mentioned, if you did want to pick up any of it at a discount, there's the links in the video description below. There's plenty of good discount retailers out there as well, of course, but these are the ones that support Auspex Tactics. Hopefully Games Workshop gives the discount retailers some supply of the Battle Force box sets. I'll try and be ready at go time if you want to try and land them at a discount, though my hopes aren't super high from them given what they've done in the past. I guess we'll wait and see. In any case, look forward to hearing your thoughts as to how good you think the box sets and things are. Are you excited for the release or not? Let me know your ideas down in the comments, and feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly be aiming to review Codex Genestealer Cults and Codex Adeptus Sororitas just as soon as I can. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description down below if you'd like to help support. Channel patrons do get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.